Welcome to Crones and Coffee with Lori and Kate, a podcast about spirituality, real, raw, and authentic, and lots of laughs. Hey Kate, how's it going?
Hey Lori, it's going great.
We are on a roll today.
We are. It's spring vibes.
It is spring vibes, and we've got some great guests lined up. And I just love how people are loving this and wanting to be part of it. So I feel like we are on definitely the right track here. But today I've got an interesting topic.
Yes, you do.
Photography and spirituality. A photograph is a form of magic. In its most basic form, it captures a past moment while keeping a location and time constant on a two-dimensional plane. One of the most common superstitions about photography is that easy for me to say,
Sound it out.
a photograph can capture a person's soul or essence, in a bad way, that is. This belief has its roots in the idea that why can't I say that word? Photograph can freeze not only a moment in time, but also the emotions and energy of the subject being photographed. It is bad luck to take a photo with 3 people in it.
Oh no.
The person in the middle is believed to die soon.
Eek.
So remember that next time you're 3 besties, you don't want to be in the middle.
Where did you hear that? Where is that? Like
it was like folklore stuff I was looking up because I knew we were going to talk about this. So I thought it'd be interesting to find out what people think about the relationship between photography and spirituality. Do you think that there is a relationship generally, or do you think your photography has such a relationship to that? And with that introduction of Carmen Hazelton from CarmenHazeltonPhotography.com, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Carmen does some wonderful stuff, wonderful magic with photography. You've probably heard me talk about this before, but we had lost some animals in 2023, and she has this package called Rainbow Bridge Sessions.
Mm-hmm.
So she takes photos of your pets, and you can get them printed on pretty much anything, I guess. We chose big, giant canvases to hang in our living room, and they're just always with us. And I was kind of hemming and hawing about getting them done, and I can't tell you how thankful I am that I reached out to you and talked to you. And Carmen was like, yep, I'm there tomorrow, because we knew we didn't have much time left with our pets, because they were showing more and more signs of sickness. So don't delay, because tomorrow's never promised.
It's true. I can't tell you how often, pretty much every client I've done a senior pet portrait with or a rainbow bridge has reached out after the fact and has mentioned just how much healing the images have brought them, and just how grateful they are to just have a well-composed, artful interpretation of that bond. Really is what is being captured.
Yeah.
Can you explain for our listeners who don't know the term rainbow bridge?
So rainbow bridge is like a metaphor. It's based off a poem that was written that is used to describe when your pet life here on earth is over, they cross over a rainbow bridge to their eternal fields of play, balls of chase,
no pain.
legs of humping.
Yep. Exactly.
Yes.
I didn't know that term until, I've had pets my whole life, but I actually had not heard the term rainbow bridge probably till about 10 years ago, and I loved it. I thought it was a really sweet, not scary way to kind of, because we're usually going to outlive our pets. So it's a nice way to put it in articulate way to say it without it sounding so sad.
Right.
Because it is inevitable. It's inevitable,
Right.
and you get to witness a beautiful creature exist and then pass on.
And there is beauty in that too, and I think it's a blessing to be able to walk that path with your pet. It's kind of what you sign up for.
Yeah.
So is that primarily your clientele? Is that what you?
I do puppies too. I do puppies and the seniors and all in between.
I would specialize with animals specifically.
Yes, yes, pets. I would love to do more equine. I love horse. I love the energy of horses too.
Yeah.
So mainly I do dogs. I've done cats as well. It's kind of a different approach to photographing a cat as a dog, because cats don't care, and they're very visual too. So where a dog, as long as you got hot dogs, they're probably going to be pretty motivated, but a cat, not so much.
Cat's like, I do what I want.
Exactly.
Well, it's interesting too
exactly.
about what you're doing when we talk about the actual, because I'm actually really fascinated by this subject, because I didn't really put much thought into it until last night when I was reading, because sometimes I don't know who our guests are. We thank you for being accommodating with the schedule too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't know what's on the roster, like I have life, and then Lori will let me know what's going on. I go and I look, I'm like, oh, photography, like what is, and then I'm like, oh wow, I never like picked it that much apart and really dive deep into the concept of capturing an image and what that could mean on so many levels.
Right.
And what's different about doing this with animals is they may not even be conscious that you're taking a picture, whereas humans are kind of aware of the concept of a picture.
Absolutely.
So an animal is like, what do you want me to do? You want me to sit pretty? Not even realizing that their image is like, what an image is. There's so much like a different connection going on there.
Which I think is what draws me to it, because the pet isn't like filled with as many like personal mental limitations on themselves, or being vulnerable. Most humans don't feel like they're worth enough to be photographed. They are kind of, I don't want to be photographed. I don't want you to shine a light on everything that's amazing about me. I don't want to celebrate that, on my wall.
Even a podcast, all of our guests are like, I'm too nervous. And it's like, that's a human level.
Yes, exactly.
Thing,
so with pets, although they do respond to now having a backdrop in their house, or this purple-haired lady with a big scary camera, some dogs are very sensitive to that, but there's still like authenticity in that reaction. So when I'm photographing them, I think you really, especially as the owner, someone who shares their life and space with this pet, they see that image and they really feel that connection, because it doesn't get filtered with all of this nonsense that humans just
and
naturally
you can win them over with
do.
bacon.
Usually,
I'd be able to win some people over with bacon.
yeah, it's true.
I might react well to bacon.
Right.
Yeah.
But to touch on that too, to bring my dog Nala got very sick at the end. She was sick when Carmen was doing the session with her, but her essence still shined. She was still trying to please the human in front of her, because Carmen was like, "You pretty girl, here's a cookie," and she,
sweet.
She was very still trying to please. Nala was a people pleaser. Didn't matter who you were.
I remember Nala.
But it was
I
when
remember. Wait a minute. I remember Nala. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we had a party.
I thought it was really funny.
I was mortified because never in my.
Not on me.
Not on her,
Okay.
but she did pee on her guitar.
Oh.
we were having a
The guitar
party.
case.
The guitar case. We were having a party.
Guess that's how she feels about that.
Yeah, I don't know. And
Tough crowd.
and Kate was strumming along. She had the case next to her, and Nala walked. So to be fair, the case was in a spot Nala
Where she
normally
goes.
peed.
Yeah.
So Nala just walked over and she was like, "Pee," and I screamed.
I thought it was funny. I'm a dog person,
yeah.
so I
Kate
Yeah,
laughed,
yeah.
but I was
Yeah.
mortified.
I've had
I was
my
like,
backdrop speed on before.
Well, if anything, she wanted to claim me as her territory.
There you
know,
go.
so I do remember Nala. She's very sweet. She was very sweet.
Super sweet.
Yeah.
And during that session, it's when your granddaughter
Yes.
walked onto the backdrop
Yeah.
that she really
Yeah.
shined. And even though she was sick, I mean, she just lit up and she was so proud.
She loved
and
those
so
babies.
happy.
Yeah. And her and Jackson had a really special bond too. And Jackson's my grandson. He just turned 3. So he was about 2. And they would lay together. And, I always was like, don't lay on her. Because, I wanted to teach him that, you have to respect the animal's boundaries, And Nala had cancer, and she had a big chunk taken out of her. She had the cone of shame on her, and she had probably like 50 stitches and staples on the side of her. And I used to watch my grandchildren twice a week. So I put the baby gate up in the hallway so that they wouldn't be together. She literally sat behind the gate howling because she was separated from her babies.
Yeah.
So about 30 minutes in, I was like, I cannot do this for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I actually had moved her into the bedroom. She got louder. So I said, okay, we'll try it. So I let her out. She sat on the couch, and Jackson just leaned up against the couch and had his head on her while he's eating a snack and, giving her one, he'd eat one, And of course, when she passed, I thought, oh, I wonder how you explain this to a 2.5-year-old, that this dog that he was always with is not here anymore. And I had the picture on the wall, and what size is it, Carmen?
It's a 16 by 20 or 16
wow.
by 24.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's her whole body. And my grandson is nonverbal for the most part still. He's starting to catch up now, but he would come in, and he'd kind of put his hands up in the air and shrug, and he'd go, huh?
Oh.
And he points, because we still have another dog, so I put the gate up because he's a little fearful, so I don't want him around the kids, but he'd point over the gate. So I knew he was looking for her. And then I said, Nala, and he'd smile and he'd point to the picture. So now every time he comes to my house, he stands on the couch and he goes, ah. I said, Nala, and now Tank is up there too, our Great Dane, who has passed. Points to Tank, and he'll look and he'll do the same thing. He'll shrug with his hands up like, ah, like, where are they, So I say, you see Nala? And he just lights up. So I think
that's the power of a portrait,
exactly.
of a photograph, when we lose anyone, we're digging through trying to find visual representations of them, not so much so we can see what they looked like, but so we can feel what that felt like to have them here in meat suits walking with us,
That's what's so different too with the technology we have now. It's like more so than ever before. Because I remember growing up, I was born in '83, so we didn't have Facebook or Instagram to scroll. We had the books, the albums passed on from families, generations. Like my grandmother
with those black little sticker things that you put the corner.
And every single one is so precious because it's a physical image. And this is before everything was digitized. So you're nobody knows these pictures exist except you. You can only access them when you open up that box and you look at them.
And they're this kind of weird yellow color now.
Yeah. And so now you got, and I didn't get a cell phone in my hands until probably 2001, 2005 when I was in my 20s. So I wasn't even taking pictures of my family at a rate that you see now. Everybody's just taking pictures of their dinner that they had, and it's just become this oversaturated, I guess, visual.
It's true.
So how have you moved with that? How has that affected when did you start, I guess is the question. How did you get started?
So I was always that kid with a camera in her hand. My dad taught me guitar. My mom always had a camera in my hand. My mom was always taking pictures. We have all of those dusty photo albums filled with, Christmas morning pictures, the awkward Easter pictures.
Blowing out the birthday candle with your cheeks all puffed up.
All of those, it's always just been an art form that I've enjoyed doing. It's good for my mental health. It's just something I enjoy creating. And I think it was, 2019 maybe, I would photograph friends' families, and I started just getting more and more inquiries from friends of friends' family. And so I said, I'm just going to start a business and see what happens. If I build it, they'll just come.
Was it mostly portraits at the time?
At the time, I did everything. All the things.
Like events and graduation.
Anything. I've done weddings. I've done, I've done pets. I've done seniors. I've done families. I've done babies.
And I think a lot of the work too is after, right? You show up and you take all the pictures, but then you have that astronomical amount of work to do to go through everything you took pictures of, and I don't know how much editing you do?
It depends on the session, and I, especially with pets, which is what my primary focus now is, pets. I hired a business coach last year, the year before, and she really talked about niching down on something that you love.
Right.
And it was just an instant. Pets. Why aren't I just focusing on pets? Because those are where I get really lit up. I love doing them.
But you won't deny if someone wants like a birthday.
Not if we're a good fit.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Part of my client experience, especially with pets, is I want to hear about your pet. I want you to. We're so busy going through our day-to-day that people aren't pausing enough to really reflect on what matters to them and what's important and why are you wanting pictures right now. It's for me, and what I do, it's more than just slapping a picture of you and your kids on your wall. I want to know what you love most about your pets or your children or your husband. Right now, I want you to pause and really, instead of nagging each other all day like we just tend to do, because we're all just trying to pay our electric bill and get the kids to school and cook dinner and do all the things, we tend to kind of project on the ones we love most and nag, and not that love is not there, but I think it would do the world good if people could just pause for a minute and
absolutely
think about these things before they're gone, and that's usually where it really shoulda, coulda, woulda. So, looping back to, there's a lot of post editing and work that goes on that end, but there's also that beginning part too, where I want to meet you. Especially with pets, I like to meet the pet before I come with all my things, and I want to see your space so I know how I'm going to execute the session and what things I need to bring. And when I come, I'm going to spoil your puppy. He's going to get treats. He's going to get toys. We're going to play. We're going to have a blast. I just want to see how he's going to react to me. And then when I come back for the session, the pet is already familiar with me. They think this lady's fun and I like her. And it builds a little bit of trust to kind of help me execute the session.
There's way more work involved to get just the ball rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. Because once people can connect to, with senior pets, I feel the owners are kind of in that space because they know the dreaded day is inevitable and it's coming, and they're having a difficulty, coping with that, with dealing with that. And so I think those conversations can often be a little easier in that moment, as opposed to like a 4-year-old dog. Right. To kind of bring people to just pause for a second and let's, try and have a heart-to-heart conversation, and that allows me to capture an image, a visual image that really speaks to what you're sharing with me. And that's my whole goal, is I want you to look at this picture and instantly feel overwhelmed with, this is my dog. That way you feel when you are having a bad day, or you're in the darkness and you're just bummed out and your dog looks at you. They know, but they don't care, because they understand that right now everything's good. Like, you're my mom, I'm with you, you're with me. And they give you that smile and that feeling.
That unconditional love.
Exactly, that you feel when that happens. That's what I want you to feel when you're looking at that picture.
Yeah.
That's what I try and do.
And, it is, I think, when you're doing a rainbow bridge session, you know why you're doing that session. And that's heavy.
Very heavy. Puppies help balance that for me.
Yeah. But man, when I look at the two that you did for us with Tank and Nala, like, I am so grateful that I had those done, because they literally, Carmen literally caught the essence of them in those pictures. So when I look at those pictures, I'm like, that's my Tank, that's my Nala.
You feel that unique.
It's the energy that's coming from those pictures.
And I think that's where, like, the magic of photography is. And in today's world, as you were saying, it's the most photographed generation, but I guarantee you they're all going to die on a hard drive. I'm not going going through my husband's phone and taking the 5,000 pictures. My kids are not going through my phone to go through the 20,000 digital pictures I have. You know, which is why it's important to, you know, print and display, and especially in your home and your day to day.
Become less common, you know, because of that. I think people are like, oh, well, I have it. So they don't put that extra time and energy into bringing it out and putting it on their wall.
But remember that day when like Facebook crashed for everybody? I was like, my pictures, because that's where they all are.
It's true. And I guarantee you, when you're sad, when you're feeling the heaviness of life, as we all will and do, you are not going to have the mindset to go to your desk, pull out your hard drive, stick it into your computer, pull up digital images. You're just not going to do it. So the goal is to have it in those spaces of your day to day. So when you're in that space and you just look up, there's something you love and who loves you so much. And it's clearly evident that there's love shining right on you.
I think there's something to be said to have someone else come and facilitate that moment too. Like having to go through all your pictures, and you know, it can be really emotional for some people where they don't even want to do it. Or what you're offering is a service to not just take the picture, but to guide the client through the process of capturing the image, memorializing their pet, and
creating
the
respect artwork
and dignity, and then putting it on the wall, where they don't even have to go into the digital realm themselves. You can prepare that for them.
And Carmen gives like a whole experience, because like she was on the floor.
I'm going to be on my belly and I'm going to be making weird sounds.
I mean, she was immersed fully. You know,
don't mind me.
She was immersed fully, and then like, but the whole process, you know, like she's caring, she's sensitive to the topics. Again, especially I'm referring to Rainbow Bridge sessions.
I cry every time.
To the point where, you know, okay, I edited the pictures, I'm going to come present them to you. She presents them in this beautiful slideshow with music set to it. Everyone in the room is bawling, but in a good way, including Carmen. But it's like, it's the process of grief too, because again, you know what this session is about. So I think it was helpful in part of my grieving process because it made it real. Where before I was like, not that you embrace death, but I wasn't embracing her dying.
Like a sense of control over the situation, because that's to me, that's appealing to me. Is that you're in control of this. This isn't out of control. Like that's always a big deal for me.
And you have a place to experience that grief. You have a safe place to really dive into those feelings and navigate through them.
Because she came to
because it can be very overwhelming.
Oh, absolutely.
You know your dog is at the end. You don't know if it should be today, should it be tomorrow, are they suffering, do I wait? Because it's just a roller coaster of emotions that are so overwhelming as you're still trying to navigate your day to day. So I really think that these sessions and the artwork give you a space to go and
so, and then after you finish crying and you can see again, you pick the pictures that you like and you decide what size print, or I got some pretty big canvas prints for the wall and some cubes. There's like six photos.
Love those.
I do too, because every week we switch them out, so you get a different picture because you just turn the cube. But even the presentation of the physical product, like Carmen is like nobody else I've ever experienced, because she cares on a level not many people have. Because even in the packaging, she brings a canvas wrapped in ribbon, and there was a beautiful flower on the front, like a live flower, a sunflower. Just the whole, like, it was like Christmas. Like, this is a sad thing, but at the same time, it was like such a beautiful ceremonial presentation almost. So in opening it, opening the ribbon to removing the flower to opening the brown paper that was wrapped, and then to have this exquisite piece of one of your family members. It was just like, holy shit.
It's different when you hold it and you see it, and it feels different than when you're scrolling through your phone.
Well, and I mean, we've had prints done before.
Love your picture wall.
And, you know, it's like I get them printed and it's like, here.
Right.
You know, it's like,
here
you go, give me my money.
Yeah.
You know, and with Carmen, it's like a whole ceremonial. That's the only word I can describe, because it's like a whole process, and you should cherish every moment of that process.
Yes.
You can really feel and experience like what it is that's happening, and it gives you, I think, a sense of
Support,
a sense of peace, knowing that you have support. And Nala loved you.
and that it's okay too.
Tank loved you.
You know, it's okay.
Yeah.
This is part of the process, and it's not something that's really talked about
No,
enough.
it's not.
You know, and
It's
it's
not.
such a heavy, difficult, painful time that all dog owners are going to go
Yeah.
through, and it's one of those things you really don't know unless you've experienced it.
Right.
You know, you can, but I think it's important to you know, celebrate that too. I think there's beauty
Yeah.
in it, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think that it's just, you know, a road you have to walk.
I've been
And
thinking about it lately. My cat is going to be 20 years old.
holy,
So I've
wow!
declared her past, like, on the verge of dying at least 7 times now.
What, 8 lives, right? Got one more.
9 lives.
9
And
lives.
I've had to go through that roller coaster numerous times, and where I've kind of
It's
gotten
so hard.
where I'm like, you know, and sometimes it just turns out she's just not feeling good that day.
Yeah.
But the second she has some ailment, I'm like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. I
Yeah.
start to prepare myself.
Yeah.
I start to, like,
Well, and her age, and I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I've had her half my life. So I'm 41.
our cat was going to be 19.
Yeah, I
So,
remember
yeah,
I
Thor,
met him
yeah.
right before you decided to do that, because I was going through something similar. But
Yeah.
she's still eating, she's still drinking water, you know. So
That's
I'm like, okay, so
incredible.
she's still eating, which
Yeah.
leads me to believe she has an appetite, which
Yeah,
leads me to
yeah.
believe she's managing her pain.
Yeah.
So here we are. I haven't done it. There's numerous.
Yeah.
I know.
She drives me crazy too, because she's become a salty old lady.
Good girl. I love it. I love a cat's energy.
She does not take my threats seriously. I've told her I was going
No.
to make slippers out of her. I told her I was going to put her outside, and because she gets so ornery with
To make
me.
guitar strings.
Yeah, she just yells at me, and she commands my attention. Like, you've had me this long, you're going to continue to treat me like a baby. You're going to bring me my food. You're going to pet me when
you're
I say.
mine.
Yeah, yeah.
And she's become even more clingy with me, and so I'm trying to figure out, like you're saying, like, all this is resonating with me right now, because I'm like, do I want to do something like that? Do I want to do something to memorialize her? Do I want to just, you know, how am I going to emotionally prepare for that? You know, I put my other cat down about 4 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was her brother, so I now have just her left. So
It's a hard decision, because
Yeah.
you do go back and forth with, like,
ideally,
how do you know it's time? Is
Right.
it, you know, and you do. Like, in
Yeah.
some weird way, you just
I can very
No.
close to that. I had people
You
on the
just
phone
know.
last time. I was
Yeah.
gonna have them come, and
Yeah.
then 2 days later, she's like, "I want to go for a walk outside. And everything's fine." And I'm like, "What just happened?"
see. We
Such
knew
a roller coaster.
We knew with Thor. Thor was our cat. We had to put him down last year, 2023 too. But he had stage 4 kidney
He
disease.
wasn't looking so great when I saw
He
him.
was not
He
looking
looked well
good.
cared for. But I could tell he was
still eating, but then he was throwing it up. And then he had this new symptom where he would walk down the hallway and just yowl.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, is this pain? Is he, like, what's happening? So I ended up calling the vet, and I said, I think it's, you know, and he had lost a lot of weight, and I said, I don't think he's doing well. And as soon as I told her he was yowling, she said, that's a sign that the kidneys have gotten so bad that it's poisoning him.
Yeah.
So he's getting, like, dementia.
Yeah.
So he would act that way. He'd go down the hallway and he'd yowl, and he'd stop and look around, like, kind of like when you go in the kitchen and you forget why did I come in the kitchen? It was like that kind of thing. So, and he stopped grooming himself. So there were lots of signs, and my husband and I decided, like, we're keeping him now for selfish reasons,
Yeah.
and that's not fair to him. Unfortunately, we didn't have pictures done
You had a lot-
for
you had a
him,
lot going on.
but there was
You had a lot going on.
right now. We
it's a
mentioned
tough
this in
year.
the last episode, but
Yeah.
we had 4
There's
pets
a lot of management going on
that
there.
we lost in 2023. So it was, and we lost Tank, our Great Dane, and Thor within 2 weeks of each other. So it was a lot. But I do have pictures of the cat, and we have pictures of him up on the wall too, just stuff that I had printed off my phone, but it's definitely not the same as what Carmen can produce. And
right, I think there's her touch is probably
it's the whole experience too, like and I'm gonna be honest, you're not cheap. You're not the cheapest.
No, ma'am.
You're not
every penny.
You're not the most expensive either.
Yeah.
But you are paying for her knowledge of the photography and the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people have to remember. It's not just Carmen coming and snapping a picture. It's so much more than that. Carmen puts her energy into it, her intuitiveness into it. She connects with who's ever in front of her camera. And so she doesn't just walk in and start taking photos. She sits there with your pet and connects with the dog or the cat or the horse, whatever, the donkey, whatever. I have a friend who owns donkeys. I'm going to tell him about you because they're mini donkeys too. So they're the cutest thing. He shows me videos of them running around and they're
troublemakers.
Yes, they're so spunky. But I would love to see you take photos of them. But Carmen has this intuitiveness about her too, about connecting with the pet. And she did a session here actually at Mystic Market with a dog named Blaze. He's an older dog, 10. He's got some health issues. So I introduced Carmen to David. David is Blaze's owner. They did a session here, and Blaze, although is a service dog for David, was extremely nervous with the giant umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
he
the
did
backdrop.
Not like that.
And so Carmen's pulling all her tricks out, and she squeaked the ball, and he cocked his head, and she got a great shot. But she did it again, and he was like, "Nope, I am out of here." And I heard Carmen say, "Okay, took me longer to pick that up, but I got you, Blaze."
Right.
And she did not take that ball out that squeaked again, because she connected on that level that she knew he didn't like it. She didn't keep trying to squeak it and force it. She knew, she put it away, she got something else. And that's what I love about Carmen and what she offers, because she does take the time and she cares about what's happening. She's not just doing it for money. Yeah, money is part of it, because let's face it, we all need to live and eat and pay our electric bill and stuff. But at the end of the day, Carmen is about the comfort of the subject.
Absolutely.
Service.
My main goal is to make sure that it is a positive experience for your pet. So that might mean it takes me an hour to have that pet build up the confidence and trust with me to get onto my scary backdrop. And the moment I start to see them getting stressed out, I'm going to suggest ending the session. I'm not going to keep pushing forward. Maybe that means I didn't get anything and we reschedule, and this was just step one. Because then next time I go, it's still a positive, it ends on a positive experience. It's a whole new experience for your dog, and that's great for them and you to go through together as an owner. But I never want your dog to feel forced or stressed out. That's not what this is about. So I will come back as many times as I need to. Encourage your dog to build the confidence for them to, go onto my backdrop, or we're just going to go outside and play.
It's the whole experience. So I know in the beginning of this, we talked about like photography and spirituality. Do you have a opinion on that?
I do. I think that photography and spirituality is a very personal one. So for each person, that's going to look different. For me, I guess historically, art in general has always been a place to articulate emotions and feelings that maybe words can't do. So, my medium happens to be photography. I play guitar too. That's another outlet. But whether I'm playing guitar or painting, or we're talking about photography, it is a spiritual process for me. It's a very emotional process for me. especially with the Rainbow Bridge pets, because I feel your grief. I fall in love with each and every pet I'm encountering and being with, and I know sometimes I take on, you know, that grief and emotion a little more than I would maybe like to at times. So sometimes that can be challenging to navigate. But you know, just the process of executing and creating beautiful pictures of your pet, it's a very meditative space for me to be in. I feel extremely grounded and extremely present while the session's happening, because I'm thinking about apertures and shutter speeds and ISOs and light direction and how your pet is acting.
You are literally
and
in the
I
moment.
am in the moment, multitasking like a boss, just trying to keep it all together to execute a beautiful piece of artwork for you. And just having spaces where you can just be completely present, I think, is very spiritual for me.
Absolutely. And I know you do connect with them, because I remember the first time you met Tank.
Oh, gosh.
He's a Great Dane, so he
giant
walked right up.
Walks right across the room, and I'm 5'10", so I'm a tall woman. He was on all fours and put his forehead right into my upper abdomen, and he just pressed against me.
Like, pet my floppy
And
face.
I was like, okay, I love you, and you're my best friend now. He's the sweetest,
He was a
the
gentle
calmest,
giant.
gentle,
giant.
sweetest, and biggest dog I photographed.
Because we
to date.
have a picture of my granddaughter. She was not even a year old, just barely sitting up outside under the big cherry
you
tree.
put her in the grass for 2 seconds.
And she was like, ew, because it was wet.
Yeah, it was wet
the
grass.
tank is looming over her. Like, it's one of my favorite pictures. Yeah. It's photography is a powerful tool, I think, on
and it
many
can
levels.
be spiritual for the person on the other end receiving it too. And I think that is, you know, as much as you're willing to let it be, that, you know, each person's different.
To touch on that a little bit, I had you know, when I moved back home and I went through all that, I keep bringing this up, that trauma that I went through, whatever. It was bad, right? But I befriended someone who was a photographer, and they're like, why don't you just model for me for fun? Like, I'm just creative. I just want to be creative.
Rick.
Yeah. He's like, I just do this.
Let's give Rick a plug.
Yeah, Rick Fitzgerald. I don't know if he's doing photography anymore because.
Okay, don't give Rick a plug.
But he did. Rick's a good friend of mine. He's a photographer, and we worked a lot together just for fun. Every once in a while, we have an intention to like.
We did too.
Or you came. Yeah. But I'll hang. We're like such good friends. Sometimes I'll be over there for lunch, and he's like, "Hey, I got the Lightroom set up. I got a costume in the closet. You game?" And I'm like, "Sure."
Nice.
You know, and
You're
next
a good
thing you
friend.
know, I think I was a nun and he was a monk one time, and
I was a bride baby.
Right. So we just get real creative. But there was a point where he was taking pictures of me, you know, and he was doing things in the editing process that wasn't exactly it was Photoshop, but it was like just getting rid of some scars or like shining a light on an angle that I never would have thought, and all of a sudden I looked pretty. And I just sat there for a moment and I was like, I actually really like how I look, and it's still me. You know, and he's like, yeah, I don't think you realize how beautiful you really are. And I just got real quiet and I was like, I didn't know, you know, and sometimes it takes a professional.
Those limiting beliefs
Yeah,
that we
every day
play in our head.
You get out of the house, I didn't care about how I looked today because I knew that your listeners weren't going to see me.
Which everyone, she is still very beautiful.
Yes.
So don't listen to that.
But when I went, they did, you know, I threw a wig on, or like we do something a little out of the norm, and it's all the lights on, and it gave me confidence. It really did, and it sounds like you're a musician as well. I needed some of that. I needed promotional images. I needed something that I felt good about, to put myself out there. So him doing that, just giving me that space to experiment with the lighting and the studio space and some of the.
And we did some promos for your tiaras.
Yeah,
I was a model for.
Modeled them. So I have a lot of fun with my photographer friend for sure. And we can't. There was one time where he's like, "Oh, I got all these new tools. Do you want to play with them with me?" So we took some pictures and we sat. Yeah, well, you know how you can get drunk off of stuff? We got drunk off of the editing tools. And I thought I looked great. Like we spent like about half an hour just, oh yeah, do this, do that. I was like, wow, I look really good. And we went outside and took a break and we come back and I looked at it and I was like, whoa. Whoa.
Yeah.
My neck was like
yeah.
like a giraffe. My eyes were like Gollum. And I was like, maybe we should tone it down a bit. That was creepy. It looked like AI before AI was a thing.
Yeah.
So
fun.
it's
and
how you can manipulate photography is a whole other conversation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. What people are doing out there now, it's just mind blowing.
It does feel like magic.
Yeah,
it does.
A lot of people have a lot of feelings about AI and all that. And I have my own feelings about it as a musician and artist, but it was a difficult world for photographers already when social media became.
Well, I compete with everybody.
Exactly. I'm familiar with my buddy Rick sitting on the sidelines watching him go through the gauntlet of OnlyFans, wedding photography, pinhole photography, the weird boudoir stuff that's going, all these facets of the photography world, and what kind of photography you're going to do and how you're going to approach it is like overwhelming to me. I guess music is the same, but photography specifically is such a visual thing, such a, it's very confrontational. Like the second you're in the room and you see a picture, you're forced, you're going to look at it and you have to take in whatever that image is.
And I do think you have to vibe with the photographer too, like, because I mean, over the years with the kids, we used to do those. This is going to date me, but Sears and Roebuck family portraits.
Olin Mills, you remember?
Olin Mills, when you're smiling, and then you get the creepy like ghost head of another direction.
They've now become very memeable, though, haven't they? Like everybody does them now as like a nostalgic thing.
Yeah, but it's. I think you have to find your person, that you vibe with for photography. Luckily for me, I have 3 photographers that I know that I've vibed with, but for different reasons.
Right.
So like Rick, we did the Halloween, the witchy ones.
You can have a lot of fun with Rick. He'll do the weird stuff with you, and he'll want to experiment with
we did the Viking. So like we went outside in his yard, and it was like the beginning of fall, and I was dressed up in this Viking garb. And he put this background in that looked like we were in the mountains.
It's like Game of Thrones
stuff. And the cape was flowing and like it was doing none of that. So it was pretty epic to see like because she took a picture of what it actually looked like
I did the behind the scenes
with him
pictures.
Taking my photo and then his edited one. And it's like magic.
I'll show up on set and he'll be like, hey, can you do behind the scenes?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
as a viewer, I love seeing that. And especially as a photographer, I love the behind the scenes.
Right, me too.
I always do them when I've worked with Carmen.
Yeah.
Because she always thinks stuff. Oh, I gotcha.
Get you at work.
Gotta get your social media stuff. Like it's a magical process.
Well, then one other thing I wanted to touch on about spirituality and photography after reading the blurb that you put in our group yesterday. And I think I knew about this, but I had forgotten about that folklore of like, you're not just capturing a picture, you're capturing the spirit.
Right.
And like back in the day when they started doing this stuff, I vaguely remember hearing about how like people were scared that their souls would be trapped or something like that. And I didn't know how you felt about that. Like the power of an image. I mean, a lot of us who have altars, to represent some type of theme or whatever our intention is, we'll put a picture of a god or a goddess or a picture of a place or a thing or an image.
Or a guide or whatever. But and to touch a little bit more on that, people used to take photos of dead people.
Right.
Like I remember seeing pictures of my grandfather in a coffin, and I'm like, who's doing this?
The Victorian era, wasn't it during the plague?
Well, I mean, I was not born in the Victorian era, and my family was still doing it.
But that was like, I think it's where Blossom was during the plague, and they were some of the most beautiful. Right. I've actually seen some really beautiful.
Yeah, I don't think there's enough of it, honestly. I think in our society, people are so afraid of death.
Right.
And I think people want to hide from it. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to share it.
See, I find it odd.
Yeah, I find it very odd.
Where they like dig them up every year.
But that's why I find it odd that people are
celebrated.
Oh, see, I don't.
No,
I don't want it.
You don't want it. She finds it odd.
I find it odd that people want to take pictures of dead things.
Really?
Like yeah, like, so, okay, let me back that up, because I do have a picture on my wall
Right.
of a dead thing.
Right.
But it was to, I guess it could be taken this way too with people, but so my friends found this baby fox that had just passed on the side of the road, and they felt bad seeing, because they saw it get hit. So they stopped to help it. It had already passed. So they had actually picked it up and moved it into a grassy area and put flowers on it and said a prayer over it and asked Mother Nature to take it back in her embrace. And so it was a whole ritualistic thing, and they took a picture of it. And I was really drawn to that picture, but because of the story behind it and what they did to honor that little baby.
I think that's the same though. I mean, that's how I perceive.
But, and I'll tell you why, because it's weird. When I was younger, my grandfather passed away. No one told me he passed away. I was 6. I found out because I saw a picture.
Yeah.
I found the picture of him in his coffin.
That's a little traumatic.
But years later, I found it, and I was like, okay, where's Grandpa? Someone freaking tell me. Why is, you know what I mean? So for me, I don't have a good connection with that.
It, yeah.
So I think with people, for me, it's weird.
Weird's okay though.
I felt that way about video, like people who have home videos of open caskets. I've gotten uncomfortable with those.
Yeah,
I've seen those. I think specifically this is very strange, but when Bruce Lee passed away, there's footage of his open casket funeral, and I was watching a documentary about him. And at the end of the film, they're showing this footage, and I'm like, why would you? Well, it seems very personal to me.
Yeah, that seems a little exploitive.
But I guess everybody's different.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
And I like pictures of dead things because sometimes I like how dead things look. So when I was in Nashville and I was outside the studio, there was a fully decomposed deer skeleton in the back of the studio outside. And I just dug it. I totally dug it. And not dug it up. But I did end up...
Let's make that point clear.
I did end up taking the head home. I did end up taking the skull home with the producer's permission. But I took a picture of it. And I love the picture. To me, it's beautiful. Yeah. It's all the bones and everything's
cycle of life.
But the only thing remaining was the fur around the bones that was already sprinkled around. So it was this really cool image of decay.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll use this for an album cover or something, but I'm not a heavy metal band, so it doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah.
Yet. It doesn't make any sense yet.
Right.
But someday you're
I do like pictures of the macabre. I got one book from the Mutter. It's a Mutter Museum, and the Mutter Museum is of the German anatomical preservation museum, and it was just a book full of specimens and bones and the human body that most people don't see.
I think there's a place for it. I think sharing someone's death journey with them is the most intimate space you could ever possibly share with someone. And I think that if you want to have a visual representation to kind of celebrate that journey, which, is huge, then I think you should have that. And there's a space and a place for photography to fit in that need. And maybe it's a box you just keep under your bed and it's just for you. Similar with some boudoir,
right?
A lot of boudoir clients, they don't want a 16 by 20 for their living room wall, but they want that photo book. They want that portfolio box because it's celebrating such an intimate and personal and a very vulnerable space, which,
I had done a session like that with my friend who was going to photography school, and that
showed me one or two.
And that was her project. She had to capture a woman in that state. Yeah. So I was so uncomfortable with the whole thing because you are pretty
exposed.
Almost naked. I wasn't naked. I had a piece of lingerie on, but I had brought a piece of underwear that my husband just loves. It's like his favorite pair. So I brought those because I knew I was going to give him one. I didn't have them printed. It was just digital. Right. But so she had rented a hotel, and we kind of moved the furniture out of the way, and that was our space for the session. And she asked me, well, what does your husband like about this? And I said, well, he always comments about my butt. So she's like, okay. So I had heels on.
Ouch, my butt.
So she's like, okay, go against the wall. So I'm facing the wall. She's like, put one leg up. So I had like one leg bent, and she was like this close, like a half an inch from my butt. And I thought, oh God, don't pass gas, but it was like, and I'm staring at the wall, and I know she's inches from my butt. And I'm like, good Lord,
what
am I doing? Into? And that's exactly what I was thinking the whole time. I was so uncomfortable. And it's like his favorite picture.
It's a great picture.
Literally my butt with my one leg up with the spiked heel showing.
Is there a bow?
There's a bow,
the bow, yeah.
And she photoshopped it, and so now I'm like, I don't know if I ever want to see this photo, right? Because it's like my butt. And so she shows it to me, and I go, oh my God, my butt looks amazing.
See?
But you, like, during the process though, and she did Photoshop it, I'm not gonna lie. So it was a nice smooth butt,
best version of yourself.
Right. But when I looked at it, I'm like, this is like, what do I want? Like a boost to my person, it's like, I guess my ego, a boost to my ego. But I'm like, I looked amazing. Like, you didn't see anything but my butt in this photo, but that was my butt, and I couldn't believe it was my butt.
Yes.
That was magic.
We spend so much time with negative self-talk. I mean, we're conditioned as a society to not feel good enough.
Because we got to buy
thin
the
enough.
That solve
it
our
fuels our economy.
Yeah,
the whole idea of you're not good enough, you're not thin enough, you're not big enough, you're not strong enough, you're not smart enough, all of the things. It's so subconsciously programmed into ourselves that, I do think photography has a way to just, again, pause and be present, and we're just shining a light on what already exists.
Right.
And to kind of break up that, that process.
That negative self-talk, that negative...
Exactly. We're all kind of sometimes caught in life's hamster wheel, just going along and feeling bad about ourselves, not even realizing we're saying those things or doing those things because it just feels normal, because it's been thrown in our face since we came out, even in the womb, really.
We're going to have pictures taken before we even got out with second.
Right? Seriously. Seriously.
Cool. Those have been I've learned a lot in this episode, I think. About that.
Yeah.
I go home to my cat and give her another look and consider reaching out to you.
And Carmen, where can people find you if they want to book a session?
You can reach out to me through my website at carmenhazeltonphotography.com. You can message me through my socials, same handle, Carmen Hazelton Photography.
There's examples of your work there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I will link those links in the comments below. Feel free to reach out to Carmen at any time. She, at this point, does not have a physical studio. So she does on-location work. We can even coordinate it if you want indoor photos. That I have space here. She's done it before with Blaze to do pet photos or people photos or whatever you want to do. No horses. Sorry, you're not gonna.
How about mini donkeys?
Maybe mini donkeys. Yeah.
I would love to see a horse in here. That would be a day. That would be a fun day.
I had to take all my crystals away first, but. All right. Well, thanks for being our guest today. This was an interesting topic.
This was cool, yeah.
CarmenHazeltonPhotography.com. You can find Kate, Prayers of Nature,
33 Howard Street, Wilton, New Hampshire.
And Mystic Market, 188 Elm Street in Milford, New Hampshire. And until next time, everyone take care and live, love, and magic.